Yeah, I was going to say they were all over there, so that would be fun. Rich, you and Mike are here. We're lining up. Well, I thought he did. I don't know where he went. He's right there.
You need to sit at a place that you know. I'm going to have you over here.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'll just throw this up in there. Oh, you're fine. See you later.
That's how I do. That's how I write.
Good afternoon, everyone. If you please take your seats, we're going to get started. Little housekeeping thing, if you could please reach in your pockets and purses and pull out your cell phones, make sure they're turned off or on mute, as not to interrupt today. What do you guys think about having Dick on the truck? Is that not perfect or what? Huh? Right after the services today, the family will be greeting you and we'll have some hors d'oeuvres and that kind of stuff out. So please take some time to share some Dick Cummings stories and special events that you have. And with no further ado, I'm going to turn over to Brian Palmer Smith, who came in just for the services today. So, Brian?
My name is Brian Palmer Smith. I was privileged for some years to be Dick and Dorothy's pastor when I was a senior pastor at Grace United Methodist Church here in Dayton. My wife and I now live in Zionsville in retirement, but there's absolutely nothing that kept me from attending today and sharing in this celebration of a life well lived. That celebration is going to begin with some music. and I would ask Venus to play that to every man. Thank you. I'm going to ask you to take a little walk with me down a shady road that leads to a cemetery. As you enter the cemetery, you will see gravestones and yours. What does it say on your gravestone? Let me tell you what I think would be appropriate if that gravestone belonged to Dick Cummings. It would proclaim he made everything better. I'm hoping that in the amount of time I've allotted myself, I can perhaps capture some of those moments when Dick made everything better. But as his pastor, there were many occasions, of course, when he and Dorothy and I sat in Bible studies together or in worship. And I'd like to share some words that I shared with him a long time ago. The words are from Scripture, and don't worry about a Brian child. It's a no consequence. The words of the Scripture say, "The souls of the righteous are in the hand of God, and no torment shall touch them. In the eyes of the foolish, they seem to have died, and their departure is accounted to be their hurt, and their journeying away from us to be their ruin. But they are at peace and at rest, because God has found them worthy of himself." With those thoughts in mind, I'd invite you to adopt whatever attitude would be appropriate for you if I offer a prayer. Let us pray. Gracious God, we thank you that in every age and generation you raise up men and women who give of themselves to you, to their family, and to their friends. We at this time praise you in particular for the life of Dick Cummings, for all that he has meant to each of us gathered here and to so many others. We remember him as a father, a grandfather and great-grandfather. We remember him as a colleague, as a friend, as a neighbor. We are so grateful that our lives have been enhanced by his. He has made each one of us better. Thank you for the privilege of sharing this time together. Bless us as we gather and as we depart, because we ask it in your name. Amen. It was the 2nd of July, 1995. I know the date very specifically because it was the first occasion that I was privileged to preach as the senior pastor at Grace United Methodist Church. And at the gathering afterwards, not dissimilar to this, Dick and Dorothy came to me, said words that I've held very precious ever since. If there's anything we can do for you, don't hesitate to ask. To someone who's brand new to the city of Dayton, to someone who's brand new to the church I have been called to serve, those words were really, really precious. And it meant, of course, that now for some 30 years, I had the privilege of knowing that wherever Dick went, he made things better. We can refer, of course, to his time in the Air Force, where he made things better for 17 dentists who were under his charge. We can say that he made things better when he went into private practice. How many faces did he make better? Mouths, teeth, smiles. Think about it. You probably can't even add up the number of people whose lives he made better. And then, of course, there were the organizations to which he belonged. Whether you can list them all or would have to refer to the obituary, but there were so many historical occasions in which he made the event better. In 1849, he made better a house in Indiana. He made better Oakwood Rotary Club because of his membership there. He made better Grace United Methodist Church because he and Dorothy were always there. What to refer to his skills of making things better as well, in terms of some practical things he did in life. The Schuster Centre had not been opened for only a few months when my wife and I had visitors from England come. And we took them to a symphony concert at the Schuster Centre. And at the end of the concert, I said to our guests, did you enjoy it? Did you enjoy the music? Yes, they said. Did you enjoy the way Neil Gittleman conducted? Yes, they said. Did you enjoy the new space that we've been gifted in Dayton? Yes, they said. What was best? I asked. The conductor's podium was wonderful, was their response. And it's, I think, most appropriate that Bert Seidel is here because he and Dick not only enhanced the Schuster Centre by that podium, but they enhanced and made it very difficult for me personally, my own church. Grace Church is fairly imposing, but the steps up to the pulpit, there was just an wrought iron railing. And one day Dick said to me, there ought to be something better to make your entrance into the pulpit. And before I knew it, of course, there was a beautiful wooden balustrade laid across that ironwork. And I had to condemn him later because I had to say to him, you know, Dick, People are paying more attention to your bit of wood than they are to my sermons. My mind goes back to Dorothy. If ever there was a love match, those two embraced it. And it was my privilege to share some special occasions with them. Too many to enumerate, but just believe me when I say, Dick made my life better. Dick made your lives better. He made the community in which he lived for so long, Wisteria Drive, better. There are so many things around this particular area that because Dick and the two organisations that he belonged to, the one I know best was the God Squad, but wherever they went, things were better. And of course, there's no area of life that was better because of Dick's influence than his family. As we think of children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, what a heritage they have. 90 years of splendid living. There is no better memorial that anyone can have. No better words written on anybody's tombstone than he made things better. Let me conclude by quoting another piece of scripture. I quote it because it meant something to Dick that I'll share with you. To get to the passage of scripture, because this is the way my mind works, I've got to begin at the beginning and then stop when I get to the appropriate point. So the words are the words of the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. It took a while to get there, but my cup runneth over is where I want us to pause and to each of us to say to ourselves, or maybe to a neighbour, thank you for Dick's life. Because of him, my cup runneth over. We're going to move on and listen again to some music, and then I will ask Brady, as the director of this place, to step forward and share his thoughts with you.
I, the Lord of sea and sky, I have heard my people cry. Oh, dwell in dark and secret, I am saved. I who made the stars at night, I will make their darkness bright. Who will bear my light to them? whom shall I send? Here I am, is it I? I have heard you calling in the night. I will go if you lead me. I will hold your people in my heart. I'm the Lord of snow and rain. I have borne my people's name. I have wept for love of them. They turn away. I will break their hearts of stone. Give them hearts for love alone. I will speak my word to them. Whom shall I send? Here I am, Lord. Is it I, Lord? I have heard you calling in the night. I will go. If you lead me, I will hold you in my I will tend the poor and lame. I will set a feast for them. I am a Savior. Honest bread I will provide. Till their hearts be satisfied, I will give my life to them. Whom shall I send? Here I am, Lord. Is it I, Lord? I have heard you calling in the night. I will go. If you lead me, I will hold your people in my heart.
Hello. Welcome, everyone. My name is Brady Kress. I'm President and CEO of Carolina Park here. And I wish I could welcome you on a happier day, but it's, as the minister said, it's really a celebration. Dick was a good friend to all of you, a good friend of the park here. And it seemed you're exactly right. Everything he touched, he seemed to make better. And that's true here in Carolina. As you can read in your program, Dick was very helpful to the Montgomery County Historical Society. And when we put a merger together in 2005, that was the first time I met Dick. He came over with the crew from the Historical Society, and certainly friendly and wanted to be helpful, and certainly helpful with a number of programs we had at events. So was Dolly. But I'll tell you, soon after that, I made a purchase, and it's this truck sitting in the middle of the room here. And I saw this kind of abandoned in a winery parking lot over in Indianapolis, and convinced the winery owner to sell it to us. And I had never driven one. I had very little experience with a Model T Ford. And I drove, they delivered this thing. I watched a video and kind of taught myself how to drive it one afternoon here at the park. I was driving this thing around, and it is making all kinds of racket. has smoke coming up from the floorboards. And who's here but Dick Cummings? He walks over to me with this look on his face, like, what in the world do you think you're doing? And I try to explain it to him. He says, I know Model Ts, and let me help you with this. I said, well, that's great. So we find a little space up here on the hill with a structure, and he goes to work. I said, well, what kind of help do you need? Do you need some help? He said, I'll call Leonard. Leonard will help me. Not the first time that happened, right, Leonard? And they go to work and they start restoring this truck in front of us. Did a beautiful job with it. We've got more to say about Dick, but just to put the bookend on this, that was really the first big project that Dick worked on for us here at the park. Built a team to do it. And not too many months ago, Dick was here again, working on this truck. And so kind of his first project is his last project here, helping us, helping his team, the team he built over those years in between there, put this brand new bed on this truck and cleaning it up and making sure the engine was put together right. And we took him out in a cart out there to the new stable that we have where we were working on this thing, and he wanted to be there. He was having some trouble walking out by himself, but he was like, if you put me in this cart, you get me out there, because I've got to supervise this project. And that's what you did for Dick. Well, I'll tell you, this thing was just the start, because they're very, mentioned in the handout here, there were over 100 projects. That is not an exaggeration. There are very few places around this property that you can't see something that was influenced by Dick Cummings. And whether it's siding, whether it's roofing, whether it's entire buildings, the little trash cans we have here, the bars that you'll be served from this afternoon, so many things came from his team and the work he did here at the park. And I'll tell you, what's important about it is that he built the team. This wasn't a volunteer that came in and said, well, I'm willing to help you, from 3 to 5. We have so many volunteers here, and they do that. We're so thankful to it. But he said, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to recruit 25 other guys to help me do it, guys and gals. And it ended up being kind of by the time he was finished with a project, he was like, Dick, how did you do that? He said, well, we had this artifact, and I called up Leonard to help me, and then I said, well, I need this little piece, and I know somebody who can do that, so let me call Rick, and Rick can do this piece of it. And then, I wonder where we can find that. I'm going to give John Gray a call, and he's going to find that piece for us. But by the time he finished, it was like listening to somebody talk about the story of stone soup. It's like, and Dick was the author. He found these people from all walks of life, all over the community, to finish the project. When we inherited the Kettering Grain Museum, not a couple miles south here, it was a big project. They had 7 different buildings down there that were needing to be moved or dismantled. Dick was first in line with the crew, and he was out there till dusk, supervising the removal of the flooring, taking the logs down, taking an entire barn apart, and then helping, once the 4 buildings that we did move here, one by one, systematic, he went after them. And the crew would start on one and get through it, move on to the next one. And so it was just an incredible story, the incredible influence. To the extent where you couldn't quite keep up with him. He would be thinking about 3 different projects at once. He'd have to schedule meetings with me. He'd say, I need to come by and talk to you. And he'd sit down in my office and he'd have his list. It's like, well, here's where we are on this, here's where we are on this. And then I'd get the 3rd degree. What are you doing about this, Brady? What are we going to address this? Why won't you let me help you with this? I can get the guys on that project. And one of those came up, the 602, had an entire train car that was somebody had been living in, it was rotting away. And I said, Dick, I want you to come out in the car with me, we're gonna take a drive, I want to show you something. And as soon as we saw it, there was no convincing. We can do that. That was his attitude. We can do it. We can do it. And he was right. He would do it. He kept on going. It reminds me, many of you might know of de Tocqueville. There was a French diplomat that came through the Americas in the 1830s. And Dick would want me to tell you he did not meet de Tocqueville in the 1830s. He was not ready to meet him. But de Tocqueville talked about, he described these Americans. You know, the idea was, let's find out who these Americans are. You know, what are they all about? And he commented that he described an American meal as gulp, gobble, and go. These Americans seem to always be busy. They're always a-doing. They're always working. He said it's no doubt, there's no doubt that Americans invented the rocking chair. Because even when they're sitting, they want to be moving. That was Dick Cummings. He always wanted to be moving. He always wanted to be working on a project, moving on to the next thing. And so I want to thank him for that. I want to thank the family for letting us borrow him for the last 18 years. What a guy. I'll tell you, just another example. I was helping set up here a little bit with Chris Taylor, our head of facilities and management of all of our properties. And I could be on the phone with Dick and going through his list, hearing his concerns. And Chris would be in my office, and I'd hang up with Dick, and Chris would be standing there, and then Chris's phone would go off. Oh, it's Dick. How many times that happened, but it became kind of a running joke. And Dick knew it. He could do it. He was trying to get the job done. So, well, I'll tell you, the 602, the truck, the toys, I think you'll read about it here and see here at the park, a lasting legacy here at the park for Dick. So I appreciate it, Dick. What a great guy. A cheerleader, a soldier, a champion of Carolina, and a friend. And for that, we will always be grateful. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Brady. There may well be family members who would like to make a contribution by way of their personal memories. This would be an appropriate time for them to step forward if there are any such.
I'm Trisha, and I'm Pop's one of his granddaughters, and I'm not going to speak as well as anyone else that was up here. But I wanted to share, before we put Pops on the beer truck, which is just fun to say, we all did a shot of bourbon. So I don't know how many of you have ever done a shot of bourbon with Pops. I have, and I want to share with you why. So he went into rehab for a hip break or something. And he was kind of down about being there. And I would visit him. I was like, Pops, what can I do for you? Like, I can't get you out, but what can I do? I stuffed my dog in, said he was like a medical dog, he wasn't. And he's like, okay, can you rub my legs? I was like, I can do that. I can do that, what else? He's like, I want my bourbon. And I was like, he's 90 years old. That's not going to kill him. And if it does, I mean, he's going out the way he wants. So I snuck bourbon in. And he told me the kind to get. It had to be Evan Williams. So it's not like the best, because I don't know much about it, but it's not like the most expensive. But this is it. I had it in with the dog in my bag. You need water. This is all gonna fall. And a cup. So I walked into this rehab place every night, and we made the drink, right? So it has to be equal parts, he says. So we're gonna pretend that's that. And then we're gonna put the same amount of water in it. Mind you, he's in a hospital bed in rehab. And I told Pops, if they walk in, that's apple juice. He thought that was funny and we laughed. I had never tasted bourbon, never had bourbon. But I thought, I want to be cool like Pops. Maybe as I get older at night, I'll have a glass of bourbon when I'm doing nothing. I don't know what I was thinking. I said, okay, Pops, let's do this. When the nurses were gone. Here we go, Pops. So what do you say? And I'm going to say it, if you're Jewish, I'm going to say it wrong. L'chaim. You know? Is that it? I don't know. It means to life. And so we said L'chaim. Took it. And it still has that bite to me. Every single time. And he laughed. Laughed at me. You might need some ice or some more water, Trisha. And then he said, don't tell Aunt John or Aunt Joelle that we're doing this. Oopsies. So the night that I said goodbye to Pops, I went over there with bourbon, and I held his hand, and I said, are we going to do this? And he squeezed my hand. I put my finger in it, and put it in his mouth, and said I loved him, and he smiled, and he squeezed my hand back. And that's just a fun little story that I'm going to remember forever, because Pops did make everything better. Just a little bit better, and that's what we all need. Thank you for having me.
It's always easier to do this in my head than when I see all you guys, so I write everything out just so I can go over all the wonderful stuff that Pops did. A lot of people have covered. It might be a little repetitive, and I apologize in advance for that, but it is a lot of the stuff that I remember from him as well. Richard, Dr. Cummings, Dr. Richard Cummings, British Dick, dentist, entrepreneur, volunteer, philanthropist, he was a man of many hats. All the words and names are how many of you guys have described Dr. Cummings. However, for me, I only knew this man as one name, and he only knew one hat. To me, this was Pops. He was my grandfather. I was lucky he was my grandfather because it was something special, not just to me, but to all of you. During my early years, when I was young, like my kids now, I don't remember Pops really, his character or anything, but I remember Pops being my dentist. So I always had a little fear in the back of my mind of Pops because I was going to the dentist twice a year. But I also remember many of the days being there as a child and my mom sending him off to his private practice in North Dayton, and she would send him off, little key hook, as you guys all know the key hook, with this little green thermos full of coffee and his little mustache and his little Ford Escort. And if you'd be around, he'd give you a little kiss, right on the cheek or on your forehead or whatever. And I can still, I tell this to my kids, smell that stale coffee on his mustache. And it's an unforgettable smell for the rest of my life. So that's like one of my first real memories of Pops is that kind of life that he was living. But I didn't realize how much stuff they had going on. And now I have kids and life and all this stuff. And Pops would work all week as a dentist, and he did a lot of stuff for people for free. for our family on the weekends. I mean, he literally was a selfless person at his practice. And then as you see here, they would leave there on Friday, then they would go down to Duff's in Florence, Kentucky, and it was a all-you-can-eat buffet. And I'm sure all of us, family, had been down there to help out, bussing tables, carving roast, cleaning the kitchen. So that was their weekend, and then he'd go back to work on Monday. Him and Mom did this week in, week out. They finally got rid of the Duff's chain, and he did Madison, Indiana. So, you know, it's one thing to another. Like we've all talked about, he's been busy, he liked to stay busy. I like to stay busy, so it may be a trait that is good for all of us. But I really don't even understand how they did that. The antique shows, the driving around, they didn't have the internet, they didn't have cell phones, and somehow they orchestrated all this stuff. We pull up to random people's houses to look at their collection on a way to an auction or an antique thing. Knock on the door and say, hey, I sold this so front, probably how this truck came about, type stuff. And those are my memories as a child. It's just the things that you don't look back at until something like this happens to realize how special those moments and memories are. You know, my first taste of Madison, Indiana, I was a teen. I'm over there swinging a hammer. That house, that was a representation of Mom and Pop's. Every room was to the top, overly done, to a period, to a taste, to a style. And that house went from rubble, like standing in between floorboards, taking out nails so they could refinish the floor, to an immaculate thing that was on the Christmas tour for that town. That it was, I mean, an unforgettable thing. And then we talk about this place and everything else that he's contributed. You know, I don't know too many people like him. You'd ask Pops what time it was. He might tell you how the watch was made. He might tell you where the watch came from. He might tell you both and how he got the watch. And I never took that into consideration as an appreciation as a child, because you don't understand how deep his knowledge ran until you become an adult and to have somebody like that in your life. Yeah, like everybody said, the contributions are endless. The Dayton toy collection, the preservation of Dayton, his volunteer work, the 602 over at Colts Cafe. And I think we've already covered this too, but I think Pops, if he was standing here right now, would say the most important contribution that he had was his family. And because of that, Mom and Pops' house was a place to gather for friends and family. And during the Christmas season, they would transform their house into an eclectic holiday showpiece. They'd have 2 or 3 parties to accommodate all their friends. And Christmas Eve, the last 36 years of my life, I've been spent in that house in Wisteria. So it's hard to envision not doing that this year without them around, but it's amazing to have all those memories. You guys have more at that house than I do. That house was the first time I played tetherball, shot pool, first time I ever snuck a shot of whiskey on Christmas. So, you know, it's going to be deeply missed by me and the community and all the people that have come in and out of those doors. I'm very proud that my grandfather helped his community, his family, and then his spirit will continue to shape the path I'm on. So as we say our farewells to a great man, remember we only lose his memories if we stop speaking his name. And remember the ways that Dr. Richard Cummings or just Dick touched your life. Let's not let us forget him. So when you talk about Dayton in our community, when you talk about Dr. Cummings, or if you step foot in Breakfast Lumber, pass by the arcade, or standing here at the Carillon, remember his memory and talk of him as he was here, because the memory of Pops only disappears when the last person speaks his name. So thanks everybody for coming out and honoring our hero, Pops.
Everybody, I'm Rick Foles. I am my dear son. Sorry. 2007, the last of my grandparents, other than my grandmother, had passed. And last year, I lost her. So this year when I graduated, sorry. She was big on education. This year I graduated my master's from Spain. And was excited to know that Dick had reached out to Joe and wanted me to come see him in the hospital so that he could congratulate me on me getting my degree. And Pops would have been my last grandfather. My grandmother died last year, so he was able to celebrate that with me. And I was happy enough to go to Miami Valley and see him. And of course, it was the last time I saw him before he passed. But the most important thing for me was how happy he made my dad as well. My dad talked highly of Pops and being a part of the team here at Carolina with all the projects he's done. And so for that, he'll be missed. And thanks, Joe, for being a part of the family and Pops family. Thank you.
Well, you can't tell by looking, I'm the little brother. I have a picture just like that myself. I was in the Air Force as well. Neither one of us ever flew a plane for the Air Force. Every commissioned officer who went in got one of those kind of pictures. Anyway, when I was real little, he was my big brother, and I wanted to go places with him. Oh no, you're too late. Blah, blah, blah. So I've got even with him when we were in college together. He went on to dental school, completing an undergraduate and graduate dental school in 6 total years, which is, I think he was the last of those types that did that. And I was there, and as you know, dentists have to practice on people when they're in school, so that the teachers know that they know how to carve a tooth. Well, you could guess who that person was. That was me. So I made it as tough as I could on him when he was practicing on me, so he would look good for his instructors. I haven't seen my brother as often as I would like over the last dozen or so years. Job changes took me first to Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, and then to Wisconsin, where I've been since '81. So it was getting less and less frequent. Although even up until a week or so before he passed, we would converse once, sometimes even twice a week. If I didn't call him, he'd call me, being great. Why don't you call? So I started beating him to the punch on the calls. We had a great life together and apart in the last years. I will always remember him for the things he did for myself and my family. And I wish I could have done as much for he and his family. But like all of you, I will miss him very much forever. Thank you.
Our pianist is going to play for us in the garden, and then we will move on to the military portion of what we are here for. I just want to round out what has been said, again with a personal memory, Marie and I, my wife, stayed at their home on Wisteria and saw a large fish hanging from the ceiling, made of wood. I'm a fly fisherman, and I said, Dick, that's the ugliest fish I've ever seen. Here's the bottom line. Anything that is cherished isn't ugly. I cherish it. I was both in awe of what he said and disappointed because I thought maybe he'd say, it's so ugly you can have it. But it's one more example for all of us that wherever Dick Cummings went, he made it better. In the garden.
I come to the garden while the dew is still the roses, and the voice I hear falling on my ears, the Son of God discloses. And he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own. And the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. I'd stay in the garden with him, though the night around me before me. But he bids me go to the voice I know, his voice to me is calling. And he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own. And the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever
I was mistaken in that I was anticipating we would be sharing in part of that military experience here, but that in fact will be at the graveside at the private service tomorrow. So we're going to bring this time together to a conclusion. We're very much aware that Dick's spirituality was not confined. If there was work to be done in the synagogue, he was there. If there was work to be done in the mosque, he was there. If there was work to be done amongst people of no faith whatsoever, Dick was there. Which puts me at a disadvantage in that I want to draw to a conclusion what we're doing, but I have no experience as a Muslim or as a Jew, but only as a Christian, how to end a memorial service. Therefore, I ask those who are not the Christian faith to just bear with me, bring this service to a conclusion in your own way. But the way I must bring it to an end is with these words. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord lift up the light of his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen.
And God will raise you up on eagle's wings. There are proud, make you to shine like the sun, and hold you in the palm of his hand.
At this time, I'd like to go ahead and have the family stand up, and beverages are back here in the corner. We have some hors d'oeuvres over here. Thank you so much, all of you, for coming today. Please drive safely home. Thank you for coming.